All right, you are my one and only baby sister. Tell me your name, where you're living, what you do.
So my name is Heather and I'm living in Nashville, Tennessee. I work at a coffee shop and I go to a ministry school that teaches you how to be in touch with your heart, which I like. I like to make art for fun.
She was actually an art major and very talented artist. I'm just going to ask you a few questions about what it's like having a sister with lupus. What is it like having a sister with lupus?
I think part of it can feel a little bit alienating just because it's like, I don't know what it's like to experience what you're experiencing, and I want to, and I think you have done a really good job of like knowing what you need and getting what you need for yourself, but it's like, it's hard that it's something so invisible that I forget sometimes that like you have the diagnosis or are experiencing it, and then when something happens, like it flares up or something like that, it's just like, oh, I want to understand and I want to know how to support you. I think because it's like such an invisible thing, sometimes that could just feel like hard to know how.
What is one thing you learned about lupus over the past years?
I think that it can look a lot of different ways because I've known you when it's been life-threatening, and I've known you when you're not experiencing pain and you're not experiencing the same things that felt so huge. And so just realizing that lupus can look a lot of different ways and manifest itself a lot of different ways, and you can be at like a lot of different parts of the journey or the spectrum. And I think that I thought that it was this like life-ending, life-shattering thing that would always limit you, and like, so I think knowing that like remission is a thing was even a surprise to me, and knowing that you can be thriving even though you have it, I think was something that I didn't understand at first, and something I'm very relieved to find out.
How did your time with me change since the diagnosis of lupus?
For one thing, I think having the diagnosis was helpful in a way because it was like, this thing has always been invisible. And I think having a real, like, this is why I've been experiencing what I've been experiencing, I think that is a relief. And it's like, it builds this bridge of like, I can understand better. It's so nice to have answers, I guess, and to have an explanation for why you're going through what you're going through. And I think having that information it makes it easier to understand you and know where you're coming from and know what it's like to be you.
What is the hardest part of having an immediate family member with lupus?
I think like feeling really helpless, wanting to know where you fit in and know how you can help and know how you can be supportive, and just having no idea how. I think when things were really hard for you, living so far away and knowing that like even if I was there, I wouldn't know what to do or how to be. So I think like knowing that what you were going through is really, really serious, feeling so isolated from it, like wanting to give you something and not knowing what I could give, if that makes sense.
What was your understanding of lupus before I was diagnosed, and how has it changed?
I don't think I knew anything about lupus. Like I think when I think of like autoimmune diseases, I don't know, maybe like Lyme's disease or something like that, all I knew was like, it's terrifying, it's crippling, and it'll ruin your life. I think when I heard that you had lupus, it felt like this life-altering, life-ending, like, I think I just had so much fear with the diagnosis. Although now I'm so grateful for it, because like knowing what we're working with and like knowing that there's education and there's research and like there's things that you can do, there's drugs that work, is a relief. But I think at first I just didn't know anything about what that meant or what that entailed, and so lupus was just a scary word. So yeah, I feel like my understanding has changed a lot from the beginning to now.
What is an unexpected perk of having a sister with lupus?
Well, I think you having this YouTube channel, honestly, because it's like you creating space for other people to not be alone and to understand. And I don't know if it feels like your platform might be for other people who are experiencing what you're feeling, but it's also so amazing for people who aren't experiencing what you're experiencing to like have a window into, this is what it feels like, this is why it felt so confusing and so disorienting, and I think so a huge perk of like this whole thing is being able to see you on that platform and feeling like I'm getting it kind of a window into your world in a new way. That's not just, us hanging out at Thanksgiving. It's like, I know that I'm not the one experiencing it, but I feel really empowered when I'm able to like learn from your experience and watch you talk about it on this platform. I don't know.
love that.
I think
Thank
it's
you.
so fun that you're doing this, and I want you to keep doing it so that I can keep watching it and so that everybody can.
Well, thank you for being a part of it.
Yeah. I'm so happy you're doing it.
How are you able to find comfort and cope yourself with having someone so close to you?
I think that there's some part of me that knows that you are going to be safe and that you're held and that you are, I think the part of me that feels like guilty or like I want to be able to fix it or change it or any of those things, like surrendering and knowing that like I can't carry you, but knowing that like you are carried. And knowing that you are, like I've watched you step by step throughout this process. I just feel like you're held by something bigger than us, and I think that's made me feel safe. I think also those feelings of helplessness and feeling out of control and that like any fear, anger, or sadness that comes up, I think has told me a lot about my heart, led me back to just understanding myself and understanding what I value and what's important to me. So I think that that's been a gift in itself too. Like I think the emotions are welcome because I think that they always point me back to my own heart, and the hard things that have happened have made me softer, I think, and more compassionate. And so I think just being honest and feeling the feelings when they come up and knowing that you're gonna be okay.
So, final question is, what advice would you give to somebody who just found out that their sister or close family member was diagnosed with lupus?
I think allowing yourself to feel what you need to feel and let it be scary and let it be hard. And I think a lot of these things are like, the hardest things are also the opportunities for transformation. I think our weakness is like an opportunity to become more tender. And so I think like being present with the hard stuff and letting it teach you about yourself and about your relationships, I think that's the best advice I can give. But at the same time, like that doesn't really make it easier. I think even being present with the pain actually can make it harder. So I think ultimately, I think having grace for yourself in the process, and then also having a lot of patience and compassion for the whole dynamic that it creates.
I think you said it without actually saying it, but stop trying to make it easier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That always makes it harder. I think the more we try to control and the more we try to make everything okay, and I think being in control makes us feel safe, but I think if we allow ourselves to be tender, we actually will be able to like let love in so much more easily.
What is your favorite memory of us as kids?
Okay, so the one thing that comes to my head is we used to have a very large collection of encyclopedias. You and me and Aaron sometimes would stack them in like descending order and make a staircase, and we would like run up and down the staircase, and I think we would sing silly songs while we did it. Something about spanking a pastor.
Oh yeah.
Spank a pastor second time. But I think we always had this dynamic of like creating stories, games out of like nothing, and we played a lot of Run Away from the Nazis, which is just like a more PG-13 version of Run Away from the Orphanage.
Right, yeah.
The orphanage just didn't do it for us. They had to be instigators of genocide, right, for it to really be satisfyingly dramatic. Right. So I think the little dramas that we would play out together were some of my favorite memories.
What is your favorite thing about yourself?
Oh, that's hard. Oh, I can do it. I think that I've worked really hard for this, and I think that it's my ability to stay compassionate with myself. I think that is not something that I learned as a kid at all, and it's something that I've worked really hard at having a good relationship with myself, because I haven't in the past. I had this conversation where I felt like God said to me, I can't do your relationship with you for you, and I won't do that. Like, you actually have to become your own friend. That was like some of the best advice I've ever gotten from someone, because I actually started seeing me as like a kid that needed love instead of like something I needed to control and fix. So my relationship with myself has totally changed. And so I think my favorite thing about myself is how I have become a safe person for me. And that wasn't always the case. I know that if I mess up, I won't punish myself or threaten myself. I'll have compassion. So that's my favorite thing about me.
Definitely. That's
I like that. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to hang out with me, and I will talk to you later.
What was the question? Yeah. Was this question about coping?
Yes. How do you cope?
Yes.